Hello, this is Linda from Overbrook Quilt Connection, and today I'm doing a demo on the Facet block of the month that we've been doing, and this one particularly is about the setting blocks. I did one previously on the sashing and how to do the angles on that, and that's on our YouTube channel, Overbrook Quilt Connection Safarik, S-A-F-A-R-I-K, which is Amy's last name. And so this one will be in the same place. I will do an additional video later that has the setting triangles as well. So be sure and watch all three of those and you'll be able to finish up your facet block of the month. All right, I'm going to refer to my instructions a lot because there's a lot on that one page and I want to be sure I don't miss anything. So the first thing we do is we make a strip set, and it's a 4.5 inch background and 4.5 inch strip, that's background, 2.5 inch strip of blue or teal, 2.5 inch strip of orange. Sew that all together and you subcut it into 2.5 inch segments, and you need 12 of them. All right, then it also has you cut some squares, but we'll do that on a subsequent step. All right, so we'll put these off to the side and we don't use them right at the very beginning. Then we take 5 1/8 inch squares of the teal and the orange and we cut them on the diagonal both directions. So you end up with triangles that have straight of grain on the outside edge. You do that with both the orange and the teal. All right, then we cut 2.5 inch squares, and you will cut 2.5 inch orange and teal, and you will cut 12 of each color. All right, so we're ready for, we're in step 3, okay? There are background rectangles that we cut out of a 5 inch strip, and we will need to cut them off to have the angle right. We want a 45-degree angle, and in order to do that, this is already cut, so you're going to have to pretend, but that's okay. You put the 45-degree line of your ruler along the bottom edge of your strip, and you line up the corner with the corner of the strip. And then, sorry, I'm going to have to line this back up again. That's harder than it looks when it's already cut. Okay, so it's going to look just like that with the 45-degree line along the bottom, and then you're going to cut here, and that's going to be scrap. So you will have, and you need to have these pieces wrong sides together, which that's the way the fabric is printed. So, you know, when you cut them, they're already going to be in pairs that are wrong sides together. Okay, so you cut that angle, and these pieces then we're make a left and a right, and we are going to insert our triangles in those. And the long pointy end goes to the skinny point of the triangle, and these short ends go with the fat end of the triangle. Okay, the first thing you need to do is mark some seam allowances. And I'm using my magic wand that has the line down the middle. And I'm going to put that line on the edge of my fabric. And all I'm going to do is mark the top and bottom. Oops, let me get that held there. Okay, I'm going to mark the top and bottom, 1/4 inch. I'm going to do that on both. Now, I did that, I told myself that I could just guess and do this without marking, but I ended up going back and remarking them all because I could not guess accurately enough to make this look right. I also only marked one of the seam allowance on one side of the triangle because it's a friction pen, so when I iron it, it's going to disappear anyway. And so that And I've got markings on the other side that will work for me next time. So for this first side, I'm going to match up my seam allowances, but I'm going to leave just like one or so threads above my teal or my orange. And you can see the seam allowance comes up just a tiny bit more than the teal. But on this end, I'm going to match my seam allowances. And you can see that the teal and the edge of the teal and the seam allowance on both sides match. All right, so I'm going to pin them both, but as you can see, there's a little bit of a ripple here, but that's okay because these are both bias edges and that will easily ease in. I do go ahead and sew it with it on the bottom though, but it will ease in perfectly. So your seam should hit, again, where those two cross, and you should have a tiny bit of, a thread, I'm not talking about much, left on the top. And sew that seam and press it towards the teal triangle. Okay, this one's orange, so you'll have to, but this was our first seam, okay? Now, when you're done with that seam, you're going to have these tips, this tip hanging down. I just left that for the time being. But as you can see here on the top, there's just like a tiny, tiny bit of that background showing. All right, so I'm going to line up the second side here. And again, I'm going to match the bottom where those two intersect. I'm going to pin that. And then on this side, it's got to go all the way up to the top of the background. So my intersection is going to be where this and the line cross. And that's my second, where my second seam's going to go. So I pin it on the seam just to hold it. Sew that seam and you end up with these that you press both of them towards the triangle. All right, they're a little bit long, so the next thing you do, and unfortunately mine are already trimmed, so you're just going to have to pretend with me. But you take your ruler and you put the 4 1/4 inch mark right here on the point of your triangle strip. Okay, then you're going to trim off what's left, and it'll only be maybe an eighth, somewhere between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch. And then you do that the same way on the other side. I'm going to flip it around so I can put the 4 1/4 on here again. And you know, these are kind of, since there's bias on both of these, sometimes they kind of want to curl a little bit. I did not use steam when I pressed them because I tend to press pretty heavily. And so I really would have distorted them if I had done that. But anyhow, straighten them up where they belong if they're not straight along where your ruler is. Then again, trim off what you have left over on this side. This whole piece then should be 8 1/2 inches. And you'll do that with all of your orange and all of your teal. You can also trim those little tips that are hanging down so you have a straight 2 1/2 inch wide strip that has a straight edge. Okay, so we are in step 5. And so with the triangle pointing up, so I better do it with it point, I know it's backwards for you, but I better do it my way or I'm going to do it backwards. So I'm left and right challenged, believe me. So for 6 of these teal units, you're going to sew a teal 2 1/2 inch square on the right end and an orange on the other end. And you press them out. So it looks like this. Okay, so for you guys, that would be up, teal, and orange for 6 units. Okay, then for the other 6 teal units, you do the exact opposite. So you end up with 6 like this and 6 like this. On the orange, you don't do anything with those. You just leave them like that. All right, now we are going to make our centers, our block centers. So we have a 4.5 inch teal square, and that's the centers are all made the same for all 6 of your blocks. So you have 4.5 inch teal centers, and you'll sew 2.5 by 4.5 inch backgrounds, rectangles on either side, and you press them towards the square. All right, then these strips that we did, these strip sets that we did in step 1, you're going to put on either side to make your square, your center square. So make sure that your teal is all in a row and that your oranges are opposite each other. By the time we put the next set of rows on, they will be extended, the colors will be extended out. Okay, so once you sew those on, and again you press those towards the center, this square then should be 8.5 inches because it's going to go next to these, which are also 8.5 inches. Now, you've got pictures at the top of, because they're a little bit backwards of each other, and so you have to be sure and get them going the right way. So the first thing you're going to do is have a, let me see, let me get this facing the right way. Okay, the teal is on the top, what would be your right. So make sure the point is going towards the center. You're going to sew one of these units to the top and the bottom. And then these units, sorry, I don't have 2 of them, so I can't complete the block, but these will go on either side with the points going in. That will complete your block. That will complete having the orange in a row, and it'll complete having the teal in a row. And of course, this block then will end up being 12.5, the same as all of your other piece blocks that you've done. All right, so you'll make 3 like that. Then for the next set of 3, instead of putting the orange on the top and bottom, you're going to put the orange on the sides, again with the point going in. Then we'll use these units that were opposite of this. Okay, so those are going to go on the top and bottom this time. So the first set of 3, these go on the top and bottom, these go on the sides. The second set of 3, these go on the sides, and these go on the top and bottom. And that's how you make them opposite of each other on that outer ring. But you still end up with 2 blocks that have the teal all going one way and the orange all going the opposite. And that is how then when you put it into the quilt, that is how it's going to make that orange go all the way horizontally and your teal go all the way vertically. So now we've done the sashing, these pieces, and we've done these blocks. So what's left to do then are these setting triangles. And we have several styles of those to make too. So I will do another video for those. Thank you very much. Hope this helps you out.